My neighbor saved my life, but he also exposed the people who wanted me dead. My name is Clara Benson, and I'm 32 years old, though sometimes it feels like I've lived 3 different lifetimes inside this one body. A lifetime of trying too hard, a lifetime of pleasing people who barely noticed, and a lifetime of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. But nothing prepared me for the morning that ended the version of myself I used to be. It began with a knock, not a gentle tap, not a hesitant nudge, a violent, urgent, desperate pounding at my apartment door at 5 a.m. Rain was hitting the window so hard it sounded like tiny stones. My alarm hadn't even rung yet. I stumbled out of bed, confused, my heart hammering in my throat. No one visited me at that time. No one cared enough to. I opened the door, and there he was. Jonathan Price, my neighbor from 2 doors down, standing in the hallway, drenched, his shirt clinging to his skin, hair slicked down, chest rising and falling like he'd been running. "Clara," he breathed, grabbing my arm, "listen to me. Don't go to work today. Please, whatever you do, don't step outside." I blinked rapidly, still half asleep. "Jonathan? What? It's 5 in the—" "Don't argue," he whispered harshly. "Just trust me." It was the way he said it. Not dramatic, not emotional, but terrified. Something inside me shifted. Against all logic, I nodded slowly. "Okay?" "Good." His shoulders dropped in relief. "Stay inside. Don't answer calls. Don't answer messages. Just stay." Then he left. Just like that. No explanation, no detail, nothing but fear burning in his eyes. I thought I'd just follow his instruction for an hour and see what happened. Maybe he'd explain. Maybe I'd laugh about it later. I didn't laugh. Because by noon, the news broke. A gas explosion had destroyed 3 floors of my office building. People were trapped. People were missing. People I saw every single weekday were gone. I dropped my phone. I sat on the cold living room floor, staring at the screen as reporters showed smoke pouring from the windows I used to walk past every morning. And then the shaking started. Not from the explosion, but from the realization I was supposed to be there. I would have been sitting at my desk. I would have died. Jonathan, somehow, had saved my life. But that wasn't the shocking part of the day. The shocking part came from the betrayal that followed right after. Around 12:20 p.m., while I was glued to the TV, still processing everything, my phone buzzed. A message from my husband, Derek. "Saw the news. Don't make this dramatic, Clara. You're fine. Just stay put." My fingers trembled. Don't make this dramatic? The building where I had worked for 7 years just exploded. My coworkers were missing. And this was his response? Cold, detached, almost annoyed. I told myself he was just stressed. Then my sister Rebecca texted, "Wow, crazy morning. You always seem to escape situations somehow, don't you?" Escape? Escape? My eyebrows knitted tightly. I tried calling her. She ignored me. Twice. Then texted again. "Don't overthink it. You always overreact." My chest tightened. Wasn't she supposed to be relieved I was alive? Why did it feel like irritation? Why did it feel like people weren't surprised I missed the explosion? almost like they already knew. If you looked at my family from the outside, you'd think we were fine. My mother, Elaine, polished, elegant, always smiling for church photos. My father, Martin, respected in the neighborhood, the man people greeted with respect. And my sister, Rebecca, the golden child, the adored one, the chosen one, the miracle baby, as my parents called her, born when my mother was 42. Everything Rebecca touched turned into praise. Everything I touched turned into responsibility. I grew up hearing, "Clara, let your sister shine. Clara, don't be jealous. Clara, we need you to be strong. Clara, you'll get your moment one day." That moment never came. Not from them. Not from anyone. Even in adulthood, Rebecca's jealousy showed its teeth in subtle ways. Cutting comments, condescending smiles, backhanded compliments. But I brushed it off. She was my sister. Family is family. Or so I believed. Until that day. At around 1:30 p.m., my mother called. "Clara, are you home?" Her voice was sharp, controlled, a little too controlled. "Yes, Mom, I'm okay. I didn't go to work today." A pause. A long, cold pause. Why not? Because Jonathan, my neighbor, he warned me. He said I shouldn't go. Silence. Then, "Clara, listen to me carefully." Her voice dropped. "Do not talk to anyone about this. Not to the police, not to reporters, not to anyone. Do you understand?" My blood ran cold. "Mom, what's going on?" "Just do as I say." And she hung up. No "I love you." No "thank God you're alive." No relief in her tone. Just instructions. Just control. Just secrecy. At 2:07 p.m., someone slid a white envelope under my door. Plain. Unmarked. No name. I picked it up carefully, heart racing. Inside was a single, typed message. "You think he saved you by chance. He didn't. Nothing about today was an accident. Your family knows more than you think." I gasped and stepped back. My family? I read it again. And again. There was more. "If you want the truth, meet me at the old Willow Bridge at 6 p.m. Come alone." I sat on the floor, gripping the paper, breathing hard. Everything felt off. Everything felt wrong. Jonathan had warned me. My mother wanted silence. My sister sounded annoyed that I lived. Now, someone was telling me the explosion wasn't an accident, and that my family, my own blood, knew something. My fingers trembled violently as I held the paper. And then I noticed something else. A faint smell on the envelope. A familiar smell. My father's cologne. I looked at the envelope again, the scent growing stronger the more I focused. Why would an anonymous letter warning me about my own family smell like my father's cologne? My heart pounded louder than I could hear in my ears. Was it him? Was it someone close to him? Was it someone who had been inside my parents' home? Or was this an intentional clue? I stood in the middle of my apartment, shaking, understanding one brutal truth. If Jonathan hadn't knocked at 5 a.m., I might have died in that building. And someone in my family might have known it was coming. And now, I had 6 hours before the meeting at the Willow Bridge. 6 hours to decide, do I go or do I run? The rest of the day moved like fog, thick, heavy, unsettling. I kept reading the letter, my hands trembling every time my eyes drifted back to the sentence that refused to leave my brain. Your family knows more than you think. My family, the people who were supposed to love me, protect me, stand with me. The letter didn't say who knew. It didn't say what they knew, just that the truth was waiting at an old bridge at 6 p.m. The Willow Bridge, a place I hadn't visited in 10 years, a place connected to a memory I tried hard to bury. By 3 p.m., the rain had stopped, but the sky stayed gray. My apartment felt like a cage, quiet, suffocating, filled with unanswered questions. I paced from room to room, chewing on my thoughts. Why had my mother told me not to speak to anyone? Why had Derek sounded annoyed? Why had Rebecca hinted that I always escaped situations? Most importantly, why did the envelope smell like my father's cologne? Was it planted on purpose? Was it a warning from him? Or was he involved? Every possibility made my stomach twist. Around 3:40 p.m., another knock came at my door, this time softer. When I opened it, Jonathan stood there again, still looking shaken but not drenched like before. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stepped aside. Yes, please." He walked in hesitantly, glancing around like he expected someone to jump out. "What happened this morning? Why did you tell me not to go?" He rubbed his hands together slowly, as if warming them. "I can't tell you everything," he said, "but I saw something yesterday, something I wasn't supposed to see." "Or what did you see?" He hesitated. His jaw clenched. His eyes dropped to the floor. "Clara, you're not safe." My breath caught. "From who?" He looked at me then, really looked, with regret in his eyes. "From the people closest to you." I stepped back. "My family?" He didn't nod. He didn't shake his head. He just said, "Don't trust anyone right now." Something inside my chest cracked. "Jonathan, did someone say something? Did you hear something?" "I heard enough," he said quietly. That answer was worse than nothing. After Jonathan left, I sat alone on my couch, hugging my knees to my chest. I stared out the window, watching the gray sky over the city. Willow Bridge. Why that place? Why now? My mind drifted back, something I had pushed away for years. I was 22. Rebecca was 17. We were walking along the river after a family argument. She had been crying. I followed her to make sure she didn't do anything stupid. At the bridge, she turned around and screamed, "I wish you weren't born!" She shoved me. Not playfully, not lightly. She shoved me hard. I stumbled backwards. My foot hit a rock. I slipped. My back slammed against the railing. If the railing had given way, I would have fallen into the river. I never told my parents because they always protected her, always excused her, always told me, "Be patient." I buried that memory, but now it clawed its way back. Was this meeting at the bridge connected? Was someone trying to remind me, warn me, or finish what started that day? By 5:15 p.m., I made my mind up. I was going. I had to know the truth. That letter, that message, wasn't a prank. It had too much weight, too much intention, too much fear embedded in the words. I showered quickly, threw on a dark hoodie and jeans, and tied my hair back. Something in me felt like I was preparing for a confrontation I wasn't ready for. I grabbed my bag, slipped the letter inside, and stepped out of my apartment. The hallway felt colder than usual. The elevator lights flickered once. Every sound felt amplified. By the time I reached the ground floor, my heart was pounding. I didn't take my car. Too obvious, too traceable. I ordered a rideshare and sat in the back seat staring out at the wet streets of Chicago. The driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "You all right?" he asked. I forced a smile. "Just a long day." "You're going to Willow Ridge?" he asked casually. "Yes." He frowned. "Strange place for a Wednesday evening." "Strange, yes, and strangely significant." "Do you go there often?" he pressed gently. "No," I said quickly. He didn't ask again, but the tension lingered. The river glistened under the dim streetlights. The bridge looked older than I remembered, the wood darker, the beams worn down by weather. I stepped out of the car slowly. The air was cold, too cold for early summer. It felt unnatural. I walked toward the center of the bridge. No one was there yet. Just the sound of water moving below and the faint rustle of wind through the trees. I checked my phone. 6 p.m. Then, a figure stepped out from behind the pillars. My stomach dropped. Not a stranger, not Jonathan, not someone distant. It was my father. He looked older than usual, not just tired, broken, like a man carrying secrets too heavy for him. "Dad?" I whispered. He looked at me with a mixture of guilt and relief. "Clara, thank God you came." My throat tightened. "You wrote the letter?" "Yes." "Why?" He swallowed hard. "Because you needed to know the truth." I stepped back slightly. "What truth?" He looked away, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "The explosion wasn't random." My knees almost buckled. "What do you mean?" He closed his eyes. "It was meant to happen today. It was planned." My nails dug into my palms. "Planned by who?" He hesitated. His voice broke. "By someone very close to you." I gasped. "Who?" And then he said it. A name I never expected. A name that made my entire world tilt. "Your husband." I staggered back, gripping the railing. "No, no, Dad. Derek? Why would he?" "He took out insurance in your name," my father said, "months ago." I froze. "Insurance in my name?" He nodded slowly. "He's been in debt. Serious debt. And he didn't see a way out." My breath hitched painfully. "So he wanted me dead?" My father didn't speak. He didn't have to. His silence was the confirmation. I covered my mouth, choking on a gasp. "He knew you would be at work this morning, and he knew what would happen in that building?" Everything inside me went numb. This wasn't a betrayal. This wasn't manipulation. This was attempted murder by my husband. My father stepped closer. "I didn't know until yesterday. I overheard a conversation he wasn't meant to have. I came here because if I confronted him, he would know it was me who told you, and then you'd be in more danger." My vision blurred with tears. "So, Jonathan, he saved me? He was doing what he could. But it's bigger than him, bigger than us. Clara, you are not safe in your own home." My knees weakened. The world spun. And then, footsteps. Behind us. Heavy, rapid, purposeful. My father went pale. "Clara, run!" I turned, slowly, fear choking my breath. And in the dim light, I saw a silhouette. Tall,
broad, familiar. My heart stopped. It was Derek, and he wasn't alone.
The moment I turned and saw Derek standing on the bridge, everything inside me froze, like the river below had reached up and gripped my heart in its ice-cold hands. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to know. He wasn't supposed to come for me. Not yet. But he was there. And he wasn't alone. A second figure stood behind him, hood up, face shadowed, taller than Derek, broad-shouldered, someone I couldn't recognize. My father stepped in front of me instinctively, as if his body alone could shield me from the danger barreling toward us. "Clara," he whispered without looking back. "Don't speak. Don't move." But my voice cracked through the tension anyway. "Derek, why are you here?" He didn't answer immediately. He didn't even look surprised to see us. His eyes dragged across the bridge with slow, deliberate calm, like a man surveying a task he was prepared to finish. Then that awful, crooked smile stretched across his face. "Aren't you supposed to be dead by now, Clara?" My breath collapsed. "Derek," my father's voice thundered, "what the hell are you doing here?" Derek cocked his head. "I could ask you the same thing, Martin." He stepped forward slowly, each footstep echoing on the wooden planks of the bridge. Water churned below us, and the sky grew darker as though the evening itself was preparing for violence. When he finally stopped walking, he was only a few feet away. His eyes locked onto mine. "You weren't supposed to be alive past noon." My knees nearly buckled. I clung to the railing. The wood felt cold and wet beneath my trembling fingers. I clung to the railing. "You planned it? You planned the explosion?" Derek rolled his eyes. "Oh, Clara, don't make it sound so dramatic. I didn't plant the bomb. I just knew it would happen." He shrugged casually, like we were discussing a missed dentist appointment. "But you were careless. You stayed home, and that ruined everything." My father lunged at him, but the second man moved faster. A hand grabbed my father's jacket and shoved him back with brutal force. My father stumbled, caught himself, but the message was clear. They weren't afraid of him. They weren't afraid of anyone. "Who is that?" I asked, my voice shaking. Derek's lips twitched. "Someone who helps me get things done." The hooded man remained silent, unmoving, like an executioner waiting for the order. I tried to keep my breathing steady. "Why?" I forced the word through trembling lips. "Why would you want me dead? Derek, I've been nothing but good to you." His sigh was long, dramatic, almost bored. "Exactly. Good, reliable, predictable." He waved a hand dismissively. "But not useful." "Useful?" He shrugged again. "You have a life insurance policy worth nearly $500,000, a policy you didn't even know you had, thanks to your dear friend Rebecca's help." My heart slammed against my ribs. "My sister helped you take insurance on me?" Derek smirked. "Well, she didn't think that's what she was doing. She just thought she was asking you to sign a few papers for family reasons." The memory hit me. Rebecca bringing forms to my apartment, saying they were linked to Mom's medical preferences or emergency documents. I had signed without looking. Stupid, trusting, blind. She never asked what the forms were for, just gave them to me. I handled the rest. My stomach churned violently.
And she didn't know what they were for? I asked with a smirk. Not exactly, he replied with a smirk. But she figured if something happened to you, she would get attention again. Your parents would turn back to her, the spotlight she misses so much. Tears burned my eyes. My sister didn't plan to kill me, but she still played a part. She still handed my life over like a scrap. My father's fists clenched. You sick bastard. You think you'll get away with this? Derek laughed softly. Oh, Martin, who said I needed to get away? The explosion already happened. The police already have their theories. I just need one loose end tied up. Then his gaze slid back to me. You. The hooded man took a step forward. My father pushed me behind him. You'll have to go through me, he growled. That was the idea, Derek said casually. Then he snapped his fingers. Everything happened at once. The hooded man lunged toward my father. My father swung first, a desperate punch that connected with the man's jaw. But the man absorbed the impact like concrete. He grabbed my father's arm, twisted it violently. My father cried out, collapsing to his knees. Dead! I screamed. I darted forward, pure instinct, but Derek grabbed my wrist with crushing force. Stay still, he said calmly. This will be over soon. I tried to wrench myself free, but his grip tightened. You were supposed to die in an explosion, he murmured in my ear, but not like this. But life doesn't always go according to plan. My father struggled on the ground, fighting against the hooded man's relentless grip. Run, Clara, run! Derek tightened his grip. You're not going anywhere. I felt my heartbeat explode with adrenaline. No, you don't get to take my life. I lifted my knee and slammed it into Derek's thigh hard. He gasped and loosened his grip. I didn't think. I ran. Down the bridge, feet pounding the wood, my heart exploding in my chest. I reached the end of the bridge and crashed straight into a figure coming from the opposite side. I panicked, thinking it was another one of Derek's men, but then he grabbed my shoulders gently. Clara, Clara, breathe. My vision steadied. It was Jonathan. What are you doing here? They'll kill you. Jonathan, you shouldn't be here. Clara, I followed you. You think I'd let you come out here alone? I heard Derek leaving earlier. I knew he was planning something. He cupped my face with trembling hands. I'm not letting him hurt you. But my father, he's still on the bridge. Jonathan grabbed my wrist. Come on, we have to go back. No, I gasped. They'll kill us both. I don't care, he said. You're not facing this alone. He dragged me back toward the bridge, just as the hooded man rose from the ground, furious, pushing past my injured father. He saw us. Jonathan pushed me behind him. Stay back, he warned. The hooded man charged. Jonathan hit him first this time, a punch straight to the ribs, another to the jaw. The man staggered, but he wasn't done. He reached for Jonathan's throat. I screamed, "Stop!" And something inside me broke. All the fear, all the betrayal, all the years of being invisible, overlooked, dismissed. It all snapped. I grabbed a piece of broken railing lying on the ground from a storm months ago. I swung. Wood cracked against the man's back. He groaned, stumbling forward. Jonathan seized the moment, kneeing him in the stomach, punching him again, and finally shoving him to the ground. The man didn't get back up. Jonathan grabbed my hand again. We need to get your father out of here now. We ran to where my father was kneeling, clutching his arm. "Dad!" "I'm all right," he winced. "Just help me up." We lifted him together. Jonathan looked over his shoulder. "Where's Derek?" My father's jaw clenched. He ran. Coward ran the moment things turned. Jonathan nodded. "We have to leave before he comes back with more people." But before we could move, a voice echoed from the other end of the bridge. Cold, sharp, familiar. "You're not going anywhere." Derek stood there again, this time with something glinting in his hand. A gun. Jonathan stepped in front of me instantly. My father shifted beside me, trying to shield both of us despite the pain. Derek raised the gun, aiming straight at Jonathan's chest. "You ruined everything," he said, voice dripping venom. You should have minded your own
business. I warned you." Jonathan didn't move. "Clara is my business," he said calmly. My heart stopped. Derek's eyes widened, then twisted with rage. "So that's what this is? You think she wants you? You think she'll run off with you and leave me with nothing?" "It's not about me," Jonathan said. "It's about her surviving." Derek scoffed. "Not tonight." He pulled the trigger. I screamed, but Jonathan shoved me aside. The gunshot tore through the air, a deafening crack that echoed across the water. My ears ringed, my vision blurred. I hit the wooden planks, gasping. And when I looked up, Jonathan was on the ground, bleeding, motionless. "No!" I screamed. I crawled to him, my hands shaking uncontrollably as I tried to press against the wound. Jonathan, please. Please stay with me. Don't close your eyes, please." His hand reached up weakly, brushing my cheek. "Clara." His voice was faint, cracking. "Run." Tears splattered the wood beneath us. I could barely breathe. My father, trembling with fury, stepped in front of me again, shielding us with his body. Derek cocked the gun again. "You should have died in that building," he snarled. "You're not escaping twice." My father shouted, "You won't touch my daughter again!" But Derek raised the gun, took aim, steady, cold, at me. And before he could pull the trigger, police sirens wailed in the distance. Derek froze. My father exhaled in relief. And I just held Jonathan's hand as blood soaked through my fingers. The moment the police sirens cut through the air, Derek's expression twisted from vicious confidence to panic. He lowered the gun just slightly, eyes darting around as the bright flashes of red and blue drew closer through the trees. My father raised his trembling hands. "It's over, Derek," he rasped. "You're done." Derek shook his head violently. Sweat ran down his temples. "No, I'm not going to jail. I'm not." His eyes flicked to me, then to Jonathan bleeding out in my arms, then back to the flashing lights. For the first time, I saw it clearly. He wasn't brave. He wasn't bold. He wasn't in control. He was terrified. He pointed the gun again at me, his hand trembling so hard I could hear the metal vibrating. "Clara, if I can't have the life I've planned, nobody gets anything." My father stepped between us again. "You shoot my daughter," he said, voice raw. "And I swear to God,
Before he could finish, officers charged onto the bridge. "Drop the weapon! Put the gun down! Hands where we can see them!" Derek stepped back, chest heaving. For a split second, I thought he was going to shoot. Not out of victory, but out of desperation. But then, he dropped the gun. It clattered to the wood with a hollow, lifeless sound. He raised his hands. And just like that, it ended. Or so I thought. As officers stormed the bridge, pinning Derek to the ground, reading him his rights, I turned back to Jonathan. His breaths were shallow, rapid, his skin pale. "Jonathan, stay with me," I whispered. "Please don't leave me. Please." He blinked slowly. "I told you, you weren't safe," he murmured, voice barely audible. "But why? Why did you help me? Why did you get involved? You barely know me." He gave a weak smile. "I knew enough." Another cough, blood at the corner of his mouth. "I knew what kind of person you were. Quiet, kind, always keeping to yourself, too trusting." His hand found mine. "You don't deserve what they planned for you." I shook my head, crying so hard I couldn't see. "We're getting help. They're coming. Jonathan, don't close your eyes." But he did. For a second, everything froze. I screamed for the officers. Everything blurred. My father yelled that we needed medics. I pressed against his wound with shaking hands as paramedics ran toward us. "Keep pressure on it," one shouted. "I'm trying," I sobbed. "Please just save him. Please." They lifted him onto a stretcher. His arm fell limp to the side. I grabbed it. "Jonathan, I'm right here." He didn't respond. The paramedics rushed him off the bridge. And I broke. Completely. The police questioned us for nearly 2 hours. My father's arm was in a temporary sling. My clothes were soaked, stained with blood, mud, and grief. My entire body shook uncontrollably. I answered everything I could. The explosion, the insurance policy, the threats, the envelope, the hooded man, everything. Derek wouldn't look at me as they pushed him into the squad car. But I looked at him. I wanted to see the man I'd lived with for years. I wanted to see if he felt anything. He didn't. Not fear, not guilt, not even shame. Just emptiness. When the door shut and the car pulled away, a silent truth hit me. I had been living with a stranger, sleeping beside a stranger, loving a stranger who never loved me. And it almost killed me. The worst hours of my life were spent in a cold waiting room, my father beside me, both our clothes still damp. Every time footsteps echoed down the hall, I stood up, heart in my throat, hoping it was news about Jonathan. When a nurse finally approached, I held my breath. She pulled her mask down slightly. "He survived the surgery," she said gently. "He lost a lot of blood, but he's stable." My knees buckled. I grabbed onto the nearest wall, sobbing into my hands. She continued. "He's unconscious, but you can see him, one person at a time." My father nudged me. "Go," he whispered. I walked into Jonathan's room, each step feeling heavier than the last. The beeping of the monitors was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. He looked fragile, bandaged, still, but alive. I sat beside him, took his hand carefully, and whispered, "You saved my life. Twice." No response, but I knew he heard me. Somewhere inside, he heard me. I rested my head on his arm until exhaustion dragged me under. When I woke up, sunlight cracked through the blinds. Morning. My father sat in the chair beside me, looking 10 years older. "We need to talk," he said quietly. I nodded. He sighed deeply. "I should have told you sooner. I should have warned you, but I didn't have proof." "Warn me about what?" I whispered. He looked away. "Your mother and Rebecca, they knew Derek was struggling financially. They didn't know the full plan, but they suspected he was up to something involving you."
My stomach clenched. "They didn't protect you," he said bitterly. "They didn't ask questions. They didn't want to get involved. They were scared of losing their perfect image." He shut his eyes. I hated myself for not saying anything. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped it was paranoia. Tears ran down my face. "So they let me walk toward danger?" "They didn't stop you," he said, "but they didn't help Derek either. They just ignored the signs. Ignored, dismissed, pretended." A lifetime of memories flashed through my mind. Times I'd asked for support, times they'd brushed me off, times they'd chosen Rebecca, times they'd told me to be patient. I wiped my tears. "I'm done," I whispered. My father nodded slowly. "I know." A strange calm settled in my chest. Not peace, not strength, just clarity. The next day, they came to the hospital. My mother entered hesitantly, Rebecca behind her. They both looked shaken, guilty, smaller than I'd ever seen them. My mother opened her mouth. "Clara, we came to—" I held up my hand. "No," I said quietly. "You came to save face, not for me." They flinched. "I know what you knew. I know what you ignored. You didn't try to kill me, but you didn't try to protect me either." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't know it was this serious." "You knew enough. You knew something was wrong, but you didn't want the inconvenience of dealing with it." Rebecca stepped forward, guilt eating her alive. "Clara, I didn't know he'd use the papers that way. I didn't know he'd—" "You didn't ask," I whispered. "You just wanted attention again. You wanted the spotlight to come back to you if something happened to me." Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry." I nodded gently. "I'm sure you are." Then, "But I'm done. With both of you. I'm done begging for love. I'm done being the invisible daughter. I'm done carrying responsibility that was never mine." They cried. They apologized. They reached for me. I stepped back. And it felt like reclaiming my breath for the first time in years. 3 days later, the monitors beeped differently. I looked up quickly. Jonathan's fingers twitched. His eyelids fluttered. Then, he opened his eyes. A strangled sound left my throat. I rushed to his side and grabbed his hand carefully.
You're here, he whispered. I'm here, I said, tears flooding my face. You made it. He looked around weakly. Your father? He's okay. Derek? Gone, I whispered. Arrested. Charged with attempted murder. Jonathan exhaled slowly. Good. I laughed through my tears. Yeah, good. He squeezed my hand faintly. Clara, I'm glad you're here. I leaned closer. You saved me. You didn't just warn me, you fought for me. You took a bullet for me. His heart cracked wide open. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Weeks passed. Court dates, therapy sessions, police reports, paperwork, tears, recovery. Derek was denied bail. The hooded man turned out to be a hired enforcer, someone Derek owed money to, someone who would have killed me without hesitation. My marriage was dissolved quickly. My mother and sister tried to reconnect. I didn't shut them out forever, but I created distance strong enough to protect my sanity. Jonathan recovered slowly but surely. He walked again, smiled again, laughed again. And one afternoon, while sitting on a bench by the river, he said something that shifted my entire world. You don't owe anyone your silence anymore, Clara. You don't owe anyone your patience. You don't owe anyone your blindness. I took his hand. I know. He looked at me with a quiet strength I'd never noticed before. You deserve a life where you're not waiting to be loved. You deserve a life where love finds you because it sees your worth. A tear slipped down my cheek. But this time, it wasn't pain. It was freedom. If you're listening to my story, if you've made it this far, I want you to hear this part clearly. Not everyone who smiles at you wants you alive. Not everyone who shares a home with you wishes you well. And sometimes the greatest danger comes from people closest to you. But you are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to choose yourself, even if it breaks tradition, expectation, or family rules. I almost died. Not because of strangers, but because I ignored the signs. Don't ignore yours. Jonathan saved my life, but the truth set me free. And now, every morning that I wake up, I thank God I'm still here, alive, awake, and finally living. Have you ever been betrayed by the people closest to you? Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear it.